Welcome to day 4 of 100 Days of Automation. Today, we are going to create a personalized question answering bot using Craftar and OpenAI. Let's create the automation from scratch. So I'll go to Craftar and I'll click on create new automation. So we'll call this automation as personalized question answering bot and I'll click on create. So now we have our inputs and outputs. So the first thing we need to think of is like what we'll take as input from our user. So we want the user's name. We'll use that to personalize whether they are male or female, and then depending on that we'll change our response. So name would be of type text, and we can give a testing value as KT Moss. And then we'll also need the question. So we'll create one more input and we'll call it question. Data type would be text. So in this case, let's just think of a question. So I'll choose who is the Prime Minister of India. I'll copy that and paste it here. Awesome. So now we have our input set up. So in terms of our output would be a greeting, or we can change it to answer that we'll give to our user. So I'll give it a type of text. And now we need to start thinking of our flow. So the first thing we need to do is get the answer to this question. So we'll use OpenAI for that. So I'll right click and open my blocks menu. I'll go to integration, and in integration I'll go to OpenAI and I'll choose OpenAI create completion block. So this block takes in a prompt and returns the answer. So first I'll choose a model. So we'll use DaVinci 002. In terms of API key, I'll put my API key from OpenAI here. The max tokens we'll just set to 60 because it's a factual answer. It won't really be that big. The number of completions would be 1, which is the maximum number of results that we'll get. Temperature in this case we'll have to put really small, 0.2. So the way temperature works is it goes from 0 to 1. 1 is very creative and it will go off on a tangent to generate various responses. But since our responses need to be factual, we'll keep it closer to 0. And the reason we chose this model DaVinci is because it's like it takes a little bit of time, but it is the most accurate model. So we care about accuracy, so we'll go with that. Now I'll click start to enter. I'll choose my question and I'll put it in my prompt. So what we can do is we can click on play. So now if we look, we got the answer as the current Prime Minister of India is Narendra Modi. So our first step of our automation is working, the question answering system. So if we go ahead and look at our steps, so use OpenAI to get the answer to the question. So that part is working now. Next is to use Craftar's language detection to guess language. So let's do that. So we'll create a language detection block. So I'll create this. So this takes in a text and it returns the language and the code of the language. So I'll connect this after exit to language detection and I'll pass it the question here. So we want to detect the language of the question. So now if I click on play, so we get our language as English. So we can try it with something else. So I'll copy the same question but in French in our question. And also we don't want to call OpenAI again and again. It costs us credits. So for now we'll just cut it and we'll just test this block in isolation. So now I can play it again. And this time we got French. Cool. So our language detection is working. And I'll just quickly replace my question back again. And now we'll go and check our third step. So our third step is to use gender detection. So we'll try that out next. I'll remove this block also and I'll go and click on search for gender detection. So gender detection takes in a name and returns a gender. So I'll connect this to start and this time we'll pass the name data to this block and I'll click on play. So now we can see that it detected KT Moss as a female and we can try a different name and I'll click on play and this time we got a male. So our gender detection is also working. So all this is good. So now the final step is to use conditional logic block to generate different responses. So now we need to think about how all of this would connect together. So let's do something. We'll first connect this back So question would go to prompt, and then we'll connect gender detection. So we'll pass our name to gender detection, and we'll connect exit to enter here. Now one thing we can do in Craftar is we can create variables. So I'll create a flow variable. I'll call it gender, and data type would be text. And now I can search for my variables and set flow variable. So this block allows me to choose a variable, in this case gender, and set a value. So this will allow us to use this block later in the flow, and this can help with like minimizing the number of blocks you need and makes our flow look cleaner. Okay, cool. So now we have our gender and our response, like the answer here. So we can also do one more thing, is we can connect this block and store our response here. So I'll create another variable. I'll set this as to answer, and data type would be text, and I'll create another block. In this time I'll choose a variable as answer, and I'll connect this to OpenAI, and then the random choice is where our answer is, so I'll connect this. So now we have two variables and both of those values are set. So after this we'll call gender detection, and now we need to do the same with language detection. So I'll call language detection after this. I'll pass my question to language detection, and I'll create another flow variable. We'll call it language. Data type would be text. I'll come and create my set flow variable block. I'll choose a variable as language, and then I'll connect this block. Awesome. So if I play this now, all my variable values would be set, and then we'll work on the conditional logic. So we can see the data flowing. Awesome. So we can see that the language was set to English, gender was set to male, and answer was set to current Prime Minister is Narendra Modi. Great. So all our variables are set up. So now we need to write some logic. We'll create an if-else block. So I'll search for if-else. Now this block requires a condition, and depending on the condition, if it's true, it will go to true branch. If it's false, it will go to the false branch. So what we are trying to do here is, if the language is English, then we want to go to true, else we want to go to false. So to get that, we'll need to create a get flow variable. So till now we've been setting the value of variable, so now we'll get it. So I'll connect this, and in variables I'll choose language. So this will return the language. Next, we need to check whether the language is same as English or not. So we'll search for compare to values. So this takes in a operator. We'll give it equal to, and then it takes in a value. So the first value will be hard coded, so we'll set it to English, and we'll connect exit to enter, and then the second language which we want to compare it to comes from the output of get flow variable. So if this is English, this would return true. If it is French, this would return false. So I connect the compare to values now to if else. So now whenever we have English, we'll go to true. So what do we want to do when it's English? We want to check whether the gender is male or female. So we'll check if the gender is male or female through another if else. So I'll create this block. Now we need the condition again. So we'll again do get flow variable, and we'll choose the variable as gender, and again we'll do compare to values, and this time the operator will be equal to, the value would be male, and the second value would be gender. So this could be female, then this would return false. If it's male, it would return true. So I connect the output to condition, exit to enter, and now I'll connect this get flow variable to true. So what's happening now is, whenever we get the language, if it's English, then this would return true. Then this if else would go to the true branch. In true branch, we would get the gender. If it is male, this would return true, and then we would go to the true branch of if else. So here we'll search for combined texts. So what you want to do is, the first text would be welcome sir, because we know that in this branch this is a male. The answer to your question is, and we can actually set this as the separator. And finally in the text too, this is where the actual answer would come. So to get that, we'll again do getFlow variable, and this time we'll choose the answer, and we'll pass the answer to text too. So this will fill in it at whenever we play the flow, and now we can connect this to the to branch. So if this is true, then this means we have a male and the language is English. So this is all good. And finally, once we combine the text, we want to store it in a variable. So we'll select set flow variable, and we'll replace our answer. So our final answer, we'll replace it with this new value, and then we'll do get flow variable. So we'll finally get our final answer and set it to our output. So here we'll choose answer, and then we'll set answer to the final output. So now let's just play this. Make sure we have a male name and our language is English. So we can click on play. So we get the language, set the flow language, then we get language variable, and now this returns true. So we go to the true branch, and now the gender is male. We again get true, and we go to the true branch again. We get the answer, we combine the final answer, we set it, and then we set it to our output. Awesome. So our logic is working, but we have only built one branch out of 4. So we'll do that next. So first we'll do this branch where we know that the language is English but the gender is female. So again we'll do get flow variable. We'll choose a variable which is answer. We'll connect this, and it's pretty much just repeating those steps for each branch. So I'll do combine text, and I'll connect exit to enter. My answer would go to text 2. For text 1, instead of welcome sir, we would write welcome madam. The separator would be the same, so I'll just repeat it, and the answer would come from OpenAI. Then we'd set flow variable. We'll choose the variable as answer, and I'll select enter goes to exit, text goes to answer, and then another get flow variable. So instead of building another get flow variable, we can just connect the output of set flow variable to get flow variable. So all the set flow variables go to this final get flow variable, and then this goes to outputs. So our English branch is done. Now we need to do the same thing for our French branch. So I'll quickly do this, and you can skip the video to 2 minutes after this and it'll still work. So now I get the flow variable. So now I get the flow variable and I set the value to gender, and then I'll say compare two values, and I'll connect exit to enter. Comparison operator equal to 2. Value would be text, and here we'll write male, and then we'll do another if else. We'll connect the output to condition, and if it's male and it's French, it will come to true. So we'll do get flow variable. We'll get the answer, and for false we can do the same. So we'll choose the variable as answer, set it to false, and then combine text. So for the first case, we'll just create some space. So for the first case, when the value of male is true, we will set the text one to be this, and the separator to be this in French, which is like this is the answer to the question but translated, and the text 2 would be the answer value. So we'll connect this. Next thing we'll do is we'll again create another combine text block, and this time we'll set the value to the female version in French, and the separator would be the same, so we'll set that. And finally our text would come from the answer. So I'll connect this. Okay, so I need to now set my flow variable, which is answer, to the latest value of text. So first I need to choose answer here, and then I'll connect text to answer. I'll do this again for the block below. So I'll connect exit to enter. I'll choose my variable as answer and connect this. Okay, so finally I'll connect these set flow variables to my get flow variable of answer, and then this goes to my outputs. Awesome. So our automation is complete, and now we can test this. So I'll just click on save first, and for our name Todd Sparks we already tested, so we'll change it to Katie Moss. So this time the gender is female and the language is English. So we'll just click on play. So OpenAI generates our response, the current prime minister. The set flow variable is set, gender is calculated, set to female, language is calculated, and then we get our language, compare it. So it is English, so it goes to the first flow. Then we compare our gender, it is false, it's not equal to male, so it comes to the below flow. And then we calculate our final answer. So you can see that our final answer is welcome madam, the answer to your question is this. So great, so our automation is working. We'll just do one more test, which is we'll test this in French. So I'll copy the same question for Katie Moss, but the value would be in French. So this time we expect it to go to this branch. So when the condition is false, it is not equal to male, then it comes to this branch, and finally it will set it to hello madam, but in French. So I'll click on play. Awesome. So we can see that the response is in French and it addresses madam. So our whole flow is working, and we built an API that takes in a name and a question and returns a personalized answer to that question for our user. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.